All right, let's jump right in. So, China's strategy these days is reshaping the global order without, deploying any tanks or troops. It's all about trade routes, 5G towers, and quiet diplomacy.
Exactly. So you're saying it's more of a soft power approach compared to the Western military focused strategy?
Absolutely. It's like while the West kind of focuses on might and military presence, China is betting on infrastructure and influence. Think Belt and Road Initiative, building ports and railways across
Right,
continents.
yeah. And that Belt and Road, it's not just about connecting regions, right? It's a tool for spreading their economic and political clout.
Exactly, it's a massive network. I mean, you see, this strategy also includes technologies like Huawei's 5G, which is not just about faster internet, but also locking in strategic influence in tech leadership globally.
Yep, got it. Interesting. So while the US is still flexing its military strength, China's quietly reinforcing its position by sort of building alliances through infrastructure.
Yeah, it's like they're constructing the world around them. They're saying, we're the ones laying the foundation, and that covers trade, tech, even cultural diplomacy.
Exactly. And speaking of cultural diplomacy, what's the role of Confucius Institutes in this whole picture? They are basically um, China's cultural museums abroad, right?
Precisely. They're an essential piece of the puzzle. By promoting language, culture, and even educational exchanges, China is softening up international perspectives. It's like winning hearts and minds without having to lift a finger in military
Yeah, that makes
conflicts.
sense. Now, I get that these are long game moves, but don't you think there might be risks? I mean, by investing so heavily in global infrastructure, aren't they exposing themselves to uh, geopolitical vulnerabilities?
That's a fair point. I mean, some critics argue that while these projects bind countries economically to China, they can also lead to dependency. And if things slip, then, well, there could be a backlash.
True, true. So it's like a double edged sword. Everyone's benefiting from new infrastructure, but there's an underlying risk of falling too deeply into China's sphere, right?
Exactly. And it's not just infrastructure. Look at the tech front. Huawei's 5G leadership is another layer. It gives China a competitive edge in the innovation race, while at the same time stirring up privacy and security debates in the West.
And then there's the contrast with Western strategies. The US has traditionally focused on military might, almost like showcasing power through hardware, while China is playing a more chess like game, positioning its pieces carefully, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like a strategic game of chess. While the US flushes money into defense budgets and weaponry, China's playing the long game by expanding its influence quietly through tech, through economic corridors, and cultural outreach.
Right on. There's also this subtle aspect of cyberfront. I mean, who wouldn't want to understand how artificial intelligence, 5G, and digital infrastructure interplay in this global strategy?
True. I mean, when you think about it, each massive tech rollout, like their 5G networks, not only boosts their own tech capabilities, but also ties other nations closely to their ecosystem. It's like if you start using a specific type of smartphone,
Yeah, I
soon
see
you're in
that.
their world.
It seems small details like network standards can have huge geopolitical implications, but don't you think the US or its allies could eventually counter or, adapt to this model?
That's a good challenge. I mean, it's not like the West is completely asleep at the wheel. However, the approach is fundamentally different. While the West often orders responses with military might, China's leveraging economic incentives, which are much trickier to counter.
Interesting point. So then the contest isn't one of brute force, but rather of influence and economic interdependencies. Do you think this could shift the balance of power in the near future?
Absolutely. Think about it this way: China is winning by, let's say, building the roads before the armies march. By weaving a network of trade links, tech ecosystems, and cultural exchanges, they're securing allies across continents.
Right, it's like setting up dominoes for a global sweep. And all this happens without overt conflict, no battles, no declarations. Yet the influence is quietly pervasive.
Exactly. And it's subtle too. The West might have noticed, but it often underestimates how these non military moves can, in the long run, challenge conventional power formulas. It's all about, winning slowly and steadily.
Yeah, yep. There's something almost poetic about it, isn't there? Instead of a clash of weapons, it's more like a clash of infrastructure and ideas. But what about the potential backlash if countries feel cornered or indebted?
It's definitely a nuanced situation. Some countries are happy to benefit from the infrastructure boost, while others are wary of the strings attached. There's always that risk of political leverage turning into undue influence.
True that. And that's where the debate intensifies. Whether this approach is sustainable or if it might eventually lead to a sort of dependency trap for those partner nations.
Spot on. The sustainability of this strategy depends on a lot of factors, including how the West responds in its own way. Maybe by rebalancing their focus between military might and softer power strategies.
Absolutely, a balanced approach is key. Quite fascinating that while one side is busy with big tanks and fighter jets, the other is quietly laying down 5G towers and railroads. It really puts a new spin on power dynamics.
Yeah, it's almost like a modern day tug of war, but with innovation and infrastructure instead of, brute force. And speaking of innovation, it's interesting how China also invests in patents and AI developments, further extending their influence into the digital realm.
So they're covering all bases. This comprehensive approach, combining technology, culture, and economy, really reshapes the narrative on what it means to be a global power in the 21st century.
For sure. And it's a reminder that power isn't always about who has the biggest bombs or the most soldiers, it's also about who builds the future. Roads, networks, and ideas.
Exactly, so much about foresight. But then, if you have to be critical here, isn't it a bit over-reliant on long-term incremental influence? What if geopolitical realities shift faster than anticipated?
That's a well-taken challenge. I mean, reliance on gradual influence does carry risk. Unexpected shifts, like rapid technological breakthroughs or sudden alliances, could disrupt these long-planned moves. Yet, it's also a more stable form of power that avoids the volatility of military confrontation.
True, that's a valid perspective. It seems like a balancing act, staying nimble in global politics while building these deep-rooted networks of influence.
Yup, exactly. And while the US may eventually catch up or even counter these moves, it does require a pivot from traditional displays of might to a more multidimensional strategy.
That rethinking is crucial. So what do you think is the bottom line here? Is China set to permanently reshape global power structures?
I'd say they're definitely pushing the envelope. Their strategy of infrastructure, technology, and cultural diplomacy is already creating ripples that might, in time, redefine how global influence is measured. It's like they're writing the manual on soft power for the modern era.
Yeah, that's a compelling view. And it's a reminder for all of us to look beyond traditional measures of power, right? Period.
Exactly. So while the military might still hold sway in some arenas, the real shift might be happening quietly in boardrooms, construction sites, and tech hubs around the globe.
Precisely, couldn't have put it any better. Awesome discussion. It's clear that the global chessboard is being redefined by these subtle yet effective strategies.